how important is it for the candidates to gather youth involvement?
Well, first off, let me say congratulations to you for putting this program on. This is part of civic education. It's part of getting folks out to vote. It's part of energizing the youth. So I think it's fantastic.
Thank you.
Congratulations. It's very important to get young folks out to vote, especially in an election year like this where it's so close. I mean, think about it. As of November, it was a five-way race on the Republican side. Today, here we are on the basically days away from the Florida vote. It's still a four-way race on the Republican side. It's still a two-way race on the Democratic side, and it's anyone's call. So in a normal election year, it might not be so important, but in this year it's absolutely important. You know, a few percentage points could decide who is the next president of the United States. And as a history lesson for the students, 537 votes in the year 2000 put George W. Bush in the White House. And a year later, 9/11 occurs, and now we're in two potentially, in my opinion, unwinnable wars, environmental issues, the cost of a college education, no alternative energy program, haven't signed a major treaty in 7 years, and 537 votes could have literally changed American history. Only 537 votes, so it's absolutely important for young folks to get out. You know, the argument was always for young folks that they haven't had their Vietnam, their World War II, their Great Depression. They haven't had one of these siren songs to get them out and to get them energized. So there's no reason for them to vote. Well, you know what? I think 9/11 was the call. I think global warming is the call. I think the cost of a college education and quality issues in K through 12 education. Young people have been put on notice. They've had their call. It's time to follow in this tradition of previous generations where young people rallied. And let's not forget, from the Revolutionary War to the women's movement that gave women the right to vote in 1920 to the Civil Rights Movement, the foot soldiers and all these dramatic changes in American history were young people.
Why do you think our youth is not involved?
Well, I think there's many reasons. I think part of the blame rests with young folks. They're apathetic. The argument that we don't have time simply doesn't hold water or pass muster. Folks spend how many hours a day on Facebook, MySpace? They spend how many hours a day sleeping or watching movies or drinking, whatever it is that young folks do. There's no reason to not be involved today, given technology. You know, the one thing that we always say is, older folks always say, you know, what's wrong with these kids today? Well, your generation is much less homophobic than your parents, your grandparents, any previous generation. Your generation is less racist than any previous generation on earth. Your generation is more environmentally aware and environmentally attuned. It's less anti-Semitic. It's less bigoted. And your generation is far more technologically literate. Your parents don't know how to work the remote controller, don't know what Facebook is. You're far more technologically literate. Let's use this great technology. I mean, and the internet and some of the new technological inventions, this is on par with the wheel in terms of important inventions in history. Use this technology to get energized. And instead of just text messaging one another back as to who's losing weight and who's gaining weight, talk about the issues. Get involved. So part of the blame lies with your generation. But I think the argument that 18 to 24-year-olds are just, you know, with a broad brush, we paint them as they're all political slackers. I don't think that's fair either, for a few reasons. One, I think, is your generation has also suffered from a lack of real political leadership. Your generation has not had a Martin Luther King. It hasn't had an Abraham Lincoln, a Harry Truman, a John F. Kennedy. Someone to make that call. Someone to issue the call to arms. And when John Kennedy said, ask not, you know, what your country can do for you, and when other great leaders, FDR, have called on their country, we have responded. Your generation has had, you know, President George W. Bush, who said, we can cut taxes, we don't have to sacrifice, and we can still win a war and balance the budget deficit. None of that was true. You haven't been gifted on either political side, Democrat or Republican, by having the necessary political leadership. And also, I think some of the lack of involvement among young people today, it's not just completely that you're a couch potato or a slacker. It's more that by rejecting the political system and not participating, I think your generation is essentially saying, we're voting for none of the above. There's no difference between the Democrats and the Republicans. They both screw you. Neither one is appealing to your generation. And what has either party done for us, frankly, in the last 7 years? It's been some of the worst political leadership in American history. So by not participating, in effect, I think part of it is you're saying, you know, we simply are voting for none of the above. We are rejecting the status quo. And that's why we're not involved.
What can students do to learn more about politics in that case?
What can students do to learn more about politics? They can watch your show. You're on a college campus. There's a library on a college campus. There are political science and history professors on the college campus. There's another college in town, Lynn University, that has history and political science students. The internet is at your fingertips. There are a number of really, really good and easy to use and fair websites. For example, I use Project VoteSmart, Vote-Smart. Just log on to that. You can learn all about all the candidates, and they even give them scorecard grades. And I mean, it's really easy. You don't need to be an economist. You don't have to read 20 pages of an economic platform and a lot of hot air. It gets right to the point. VoteSmart's a great one. Open Secrets, another website that tells you exactly where these candidates are getting their money. So when a candidate gets up and tells you they're for the environment, you can look on and find out they're taking money from all the big oil industries, so you know they're full of it. Media Matters is a website that I like. They watch the media and they watch a lot of these blowhards on the far extremes of the political spectrum who are always casting judgment and throwing out numbers. They fact check everything. There are so many easy to use organizations there. And you know, if you want to register to vote, you simply contact the supervisor of elections in whatever county you're in. You can call the mayor's office. You can call any one of your faculty members, and they should have that information available for you. You can register online. And you don't even have to leave your house to vote. You can request an absentee ballot. They'll send it to you. You can sit on your rear end and fill it out at your house, put this necessary postage on it, and mail it off. Voting has never been easier, and I predict within the next 10 years we'll all be voting online anyway. If we can make an Amazon.com book order or CD order secure, we can make a vote secure. So pretty soon it's just, you're not even going to leave your house to vote.